Yellowstone National Park rests atop a supervolcano and is one of the most majestic spaces in the entire country. The breathtaking views and landscapes are among the most beautiful in the nation. The natural environment invigorates tourism and helps to support local communities. Geographical specialist Rachel is here to give us some information on the basic history and geography of the park.
Yellowstone National Park is located in Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho, taking up 3,472 square miles. The majority of the park is in Wyoming, leaving 3% in Montana and 1% in Idaho. It became the first national park on March 1, 1872, on behalf of President Ulysses Grant. Some of the attractions include wildlife, geysers, lakes, and waterfalls. One of the most famous attractions is Old Faithful, named for its frequent eruptions, which number more than 1 million since 1872. The park is actually one big active supervolcano. You can see evidence of the volcanic flows from some places in the park. Some of the locations include Sheep-Eater Cliff, Obsidian Cliff, and Tough Cliff. Forests comprise 80% of the land area of the park. The rest is mostly made up of grassland. The park sits on the Yellowstone Plateau at an average of 8,000 feet above sea level. The highest point in the park is 11,358 feet, while the lowest is 5,282 feet.
Environmental specialist Omar is going to flesh out some of the environmental details of the park for us.
The biome of Yellowstone National Park is a taiga, a conifer forest filled of firs, spruces, hemlock, larches, mosses, and lichens. Another biome associated with Yellowstone is alpine tundra. It's swampy, very cold, and wet and grassy. The high altitude of the alpine tundra biome is virtually treeless. Yellowstone is home to a lot of wildlife such as elk, bison, mule deer, bighorn sheep, grizzly bears, black bears, and wolves. Some of the laws that protect these animals are the Wilderness Act of 1964, the Natural Environment Policy Act of 1970, Clean Air Act of 1970, the Clean Water Act of 1972, and the Endangered Species Act of 1973. Since most of the park lies at an elevation of 6,000 feet above sea level or higher, Yellowstone weather is unpredictable. Expect big temperatures, swings, snow every month. No matter when you visit, bring a warm jacket, rain gear, and lots of layers. Some scientists consider Yellowstone to be a supervolcano, which refers to a volcano capable of an eruption of more than 240 cubic miles of magma. 2 of Yellowstone's 3 major eruptions met the criteria. Scientists from the Yellowstone Volcano Observatory watch an array of monitors in place throughout the region. These monitors would detect sudden or strong movements or shifts in heat that would indicate increasing activity. No such evidence exists at the time. In addition, YVO scientists collaborate with scientists from all over the world to study the hazards of the Yellowstone volcano. An example of the supervolcano is the geyser Old Faithful. A geyser is a product of heat, water, and some plumbing. The heat comes from partially molten rock or magma. Underground water is supplied by rain and melting snow that seeps through a vast system of cracks and fissures. These same passages provide escape hatches for steam and water exploding upward. Mineral deposits narrow these tubes into nozzles at points. First, magma forms from the melting of the continental plates as they slide over one another. Magma is much closer to the surface at geyser sites than anywhere else. Second, magma heats the rock above it, which heats the water that comes into contact with the rock. The water temperature can soar to 660 degrees.
The natural environment of Yellowstone National Park energizes the local economy through tourism. Our hospitality host, Brenda, will highlight the effects tourism has had on the community.
The social perspective of Yellowstone National Park is built on tourism. 4.2 million tourists visit the park in 2016, making this the most visits the park has ever had. The tourists that visit the park are from Canada, China, and Europe. A survey conducted by the National Park Services showed the level of satisfaction with park services and facilities. When surveyed how they planned their trips, 91% included bringing a friend and family along. 66% spent 1 or more days at the park. In the same survey, 96% of the people had indicated viewing scenery, 83% wildlife, 78 geysers as the main reason they wanted to visit the park. Because Yellowstone attracts people from around the world, they contribute deeply to the local economies in Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho. Superintendent Dan Wink said that tourism helped the park economically, benefiting the park by preserving the thermal features, wildlife, and beautiful scenery. Preservation is the key benefit as visitation increases. By protecting the park, it also protects the regional tourist economy. In 1990, the Yellowstone Park initiated a recycling program so the visitors could be encouraged to recycle materials. Organizations such as Yellowstone Association and the Yellowstone Park Foundation are involved in the park preservation and educational program.
According to the National Park Service's website, Yellowstone National Park contributed $543.7 million to the local economy in 2016. A National Park Services report in 2014 showed that nearby communities benefited from the 3.5 million visitors. The park generated $421 million in revenue and supported 6,500 plus jobs in the local area. The report states that tourists spent the most on lodging, food and drink, gas, admission fees, and gift shops. According to the park superintendent, Steve Lofts, National Park tourism is a significant driver of the local community's economy. With a return on investment of $10 for every $1 spent on the park, this stimulates job growth in the tourism sector. Local communities support the tourist economy and conservation efforts of National Park Services, and at the same time they unite to combat against other industries such as mining, stating that mining operations destroy the natural environment and never fulfill the promises made to the communities. The Yellowstone Business Coalition protects the local communities and helps keep the area from being exploited by big business.